So one of the things, and this was highlighted back at a commencement several years back by Bob Ladd, that one of the nice things of being around for 50 years is that we've been host for multiple generations of quite a large number of families, upwards of a dozen, that parent and child have both been recipients of about upwards of a dozen parent-child pairs who both had OR degrees. And so I thought, rather than having a fully technical program all day talking about all of the wonderful things that OR is doing in advancing technology, it would be nice to also reflect on the fact that we are an educational institution and to think about how that education, I never, good. How what we've done as a content deliverer of an educational program has evolved, because a generation is a long time for courses, what's in there, what the campus experience, and just the whole picture of what a Cornell OR education is about. So I thought we'd just take a little bit of time this morning, and so if everyone could come forward, Bill and Holly and Nathan and Adrian and Henry, introduce themselves, and we'll set the stage, and I'll ask a few questions.
Okay, I'll begin. So I'm Bill Weiberg. I graduated from Cornell in 1981. I was an operations research graduate. My daughter Holly is an OR major, and I'm going to comment. My wife Linda is actually also an OR person, so we are filled with OR.
Yeah, my name is Holly. I'm an OR senior, and I'm working at Athena Health next year doing data engineering.
Yeah, Holly.
Hi, I'm Nathan An. So I'm currently a senior in OR. I'll be doing my MEng in financial engineering in the OR department.
I will be doing my MEng with Nathan in financial engineering next year as well. So another year at Cornell will be great.
I'm Henry Shum. I was in Cornell between 79 to 89, 10 years. I got all my degrees here, bachelor, master, PhD, and always love to come back. And probably one of the most frequent visitor to Cornell among all of you. Probably come up here, David can confirm that, probably over 10 times a year to visit my godsons, for example, and do other stuff.
So one thing that we did in setting this up, and we're still dealing with technology, that we could get one of, Amy, can you hear us? Or,
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, great. Okay, so why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll get your dad on in a minute, and we'll try to then be able to get both of you, because currently we can only get one of you at a time.
I'm Amy. I graduated OR class of 2012. I currently live in Washington, D.C., and I work in data quality management at Freddie Mac. Great.
Okay, we'll get your dad in a minute. But so one thing I thought we just one thing we did in sort of preparing this around to all the panelists was to sort of look at their, actually I heard through the grapevine that Bill said, I don't even remember what was on my transcript. We collected the course information of the set of courses that each of you took along the way. And I think it made an interesting comparison in terms of, as you thought about, look back on what you did, of course, there was the OR course, but sort of what you took beyond and how OR impacted on the world beyond. And I just, maybe to just each start by thinking about what you think about how the OR core related to the things you took beyond, and give your thoughts on that.
So I'll start. It is true I did have to get my transcript to remember some of the courses that I took when I was here, but I think I'd start simply by saying when I came to Cornell, I had never heard the term operations research. I became an engineer, or applied to the engineering school because I was reasonably good at math and thought this would be probably a good place to start. And it was really over the first couple of years I took the engineering, I'd say, core curriculum, and I came to realize that, at least for me, the ability to just try to solve problems that were practical problems, very applied, but using math or analytical techniques was, if I look forward to today, it seems in the work I do, I'm a venture capital investor, and the work I do, the term data analytics is something that comes up every day, like every company. Every company is trying to figure out how they're going to monetize their data, some of the comments made earlier today. And so my guess is, as people come in, they're much better prepared to understand what OR is. And I think as I look at some of the course selections, I think it probably influences the things people that is a deal.
So just to bring both Amy and Elliot in, that we were just going down the panel and sort of getting them to reflect a little bit on sort of how they thought about what their OR core was and how it related to the things that they took beyond that. And Bill Wyberg just went, and now his daughter Holly. So.
Okay, so I think looking at my dad's transcript versus mine and kind of like the courses that we chose and had available to us at the time, I think there was much more of an emphasis on traditional engineering fields back when my dad took it. He was taking like mechanics and solids and thermodynamics and much classes that weren't really part of the OR or the OR core curriculum anymore, which I think worked to my advantage, at least because the things that I was most interested were more like computer science applications or more like OR specific applications that I didn't have to spend time on more of the like traditional engineering overhead, I guess. And so I think beyond data analytics is such a big thing right now, and OR is so applicable to so many like areas that are really emerging right now. And so I think being able to take applications across different areas, and there's a lot more emphasis on like simulation applied to for example, in a simulation class we took this year, we did with Professor Henderson, we applied it to like modeling ambulance systems in a town and finding out how to optimize the ambulance fleets. And then taking a service systems class with Professor Pender this semester, we've seen how you can use Markov chains to apply both to the healthcare space, which is something that I'm interested in because that's where I'm working next year, but also something like applying it to baseball and modeling baseball games and finding like the optimal way to, I guess, like play the game, which is something that I'm interested in outside of school. And so I think you see how OR can apply to kind of all enabled, like has given us the opportunity to like take teaching assistant positions or do research. I've worked on research with some people in this room with City Bike, and there's an opportunity to work within the curriculum to access these really large data sets and see how OR plays out in the real world. And I think there's a lot of value in terms of learning like the theoretical, like linear programming and optimization and simulation in a classroom setting. But it's very different, as I've learned working with City Bike, when the data is very noisy and it's imperfect and things are constantly changing and there are new stations being added and taken away and there are weird like holiday effects just because it was or snowing one week, so all the traffic's really low, and like finding all these like nuances in data that you wouldn't really experience in classes. I think there are a lot of real world applications across and the outside opportunities.
So maybe we'll jump to Henry, who's go to the older generation.
Sure. And my first job is with a paper company, international paper company. I was first introduced to the famous cutting stock problem by Professor Trotter. And I never imagined that there's really, in real life, there's a thing called cutting stock problem. But that's what I work on for the next 5 to 6 years. They really have cutting stock problem. They cut the big roll of paper into smaller roll. The only difference is that it's not as simple as what Professor Trotter taught in class. Probably there are like 20, 30 more restriction constraints in the real world. And so I'm happy that I'm familiar with the problem and can contribute to International Papers Operation Research Group.
So, and then as you think about what you saw in your transcripts, Adrian, Nathan, how do you think it differs from what Henry studied, and sort of think about the contrast for you?
Right. So I guess I'll start. So for me, like I took a different approach. Like in my later stage, like senior year, junior year, I took more towards like the business side of classes. So I took a lot of classes in the Johnson School, specifically more into the asset management, investment management, buy side, portfolio management of the stuff. So to me, like it's interesting that I could apply things I learned in OR and draw a connection into how any of these relate. So for example, like in the class I'm taking right now, we're learning about, let's say, factor investing, where we learn about drawing regressions into different factors and see like how each stock like moves like corresponding to a special attribute. And to me, like I could easily just draw that into some of the statistics classes I learned back at OR or optimization classes I learned, and really trying to find that good portfolio, I guess, in class. So to me, like I think it's very, I thought like the classes I took in OR helped me a lot to really understanding the nitty-gritty stuff of how to actually make all these things work, and I'm very grateful for it.
So for me, I think when I first started in college, I didn't really know a field called financial engineering. So I was very lucky to in my sophomore year, I actually took 2 finance courses, which made me realize there's actually a field called financial engineering, and it's offered in operations research. So which is why it geared me towards to study in this field. And as I take more operation research classes, for example, optimization, simulation, and even some of the financial engineering, also statistics for financial engineering. So I think all of those classes sort of fill in the gaps where traditional business school classes won't to OR, and sort of how we can apply OR into quantitative finance in terms of risk management and other areas in finance. Upper division classes such as the MBA classes, I see the importance of financial engineering in the current world versus as if like just the traditional business classes, and I think that has really impacted what I want to study and what I want to do in the future.
Great. So Elliot, I don't know if you were on for what I sort of was framing the question, so let me just say it again. So we were just sort of thinking about, as we sent around the sets of courses that both generations took, and thinking about both what's in the core that you took and what framed in it that you took, and how that, from your perspective, contrasted with what Amy.
Thanks. Sorry about the technology. So I think a couple things. I did a little bit of Amy's. I mean, she had one experience which we'll talk about studying overseas, which I didn't have the opportunity. You guys hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. And then what I wanted is, first I said is I looked at my current transcripts and I took classes in five different schools: arts, engineering, ILR, Cal, business, had the opportunity to take both pure science, high science, sociology, having that ability helped put some of the engineering courses in perspective that how important data is to solve real world problems. And I think the thing that's lasted with me for, I graduated in 77, is that the explosion of data and the inability for us to make real decisions based on data bring OR to the forefront of being able to try to extract that. In fact, I've gone back, I was at Microsoft for 15.5 years last working on cloud computing. I went back to being an independent consultant, and now I'm working on cost analysis stuff that I learned, back as an undergrad, taking a cost accounting class or production control class. The fact that most people really don't know how to take data and relate it to business problems seems to come intuitive to Cornell OR students. Somehow, people in the business world value that quite a bit because a lot of people don't have the ability to transcend both. I don't take data and how do I move it to solve a specific problem. American history, 1917 to the present. If I took it today, it'd be another 40 years worth of history.
Don't say that.
Good. Amy?
One thing that I actually found really interesting when I was looking over the comparison between the courses I took and what Elliot took is that the foundational courses have largely remained the same, even to the point where the course numbers are the same. Like math 293, everyone takes that. And I think that that's really interesting. As Holly talked about, the way that we apply what we've learned has changed largely through, computer science and the amount of data we can analyze. But I really think these sort of foundational courses about, how to problem solve, how to take a complicated problem and break it down into its parts, I think that is really the core of what operations research is. And it was interesting to me to see that in that sense, it's largely remained the same. As Elliot touched on, during my 4 years at Cornell, I had the opportunity to spend a semester in Hong Kong, and I studied at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. So I had the opportunity to, take some classes that were complementary to what I was learning in operations research about, applying the things I had learned to social media, to innovation, to managing new technology. And I think that, the operations research courses that I took and the foundational engineering courses that I took really strengthened my ability to, take these other kinds of courses. So I'm glad that that's a trend that's continued, using your operations research understanding in a very multi-dimensional kind of way.
Great. So I'll add some more questions, but if there are people who want to sort of throw out a question, or panelists to each other, in terms of how they think the world and the campus and what a Cornell education has evolved over the years, it would be really interesting to hear. Questions? Yeah, Shane.
Actually, I don't know who this is for. Maybe everybody, right? I mean, when you guys were deciding where to go, who were we fighting hardest to get?
Bill, I'll just start down.
Well, let's see. For me, it was actually a pretty clear choice. This was I had applied at other schools, applied math programs, and this was really the only engineering program I applied to, and I decided that's what I wanted to do, that engineering was probably going to be a better fit. Again, more just application was more interesting to me than theory, and I knew that pretty early on.
For me, I think once I was committed to doing engineering, which took me a while to kind of come to that decision, but once I knew that I wanted to do engineering, I think OR was always on my mind, both my parents being OR people. It's something that I was very familiar with throughout high school, and they definitely were cheerleaders for the major when I was going through the college application process. So I think that was one of the main things that I was looking at in different programs. And I think for me, the decision came down to between Cornell and Northwestern. Northwestern, I guess, doing industrial engineering and here doing operations research. And I think both would have been a great school, but looking back on it now, it's like I can't imagine what my life would have been like without Cornell, so it seems so obvious, but at the time it was kind of a
My turn?
Yeah.
When I first came here, I never heard of operation research to begin with, not to mention cutting stock problem. To me, at that time, engineering means two choices: electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. There's no third one, just electrical and mechanical engineering. That's all I know. I think nowadays probably engineering college has something like 13 majors or something like that. At most 8, not all the 13. So it's amazing. It's a big menu to choose from. For me, if I want an Ivy League name and engineering, probably there's no choice but Cornell. So it's very easy to make the selection. As far as my PhD program goes, at that time I'm interested in combinatorial optimization, and there are only like a handful of universities at that time which is famous for its combinatorial optimization. So it's also a very easy choice for me.
Oh, so for me, it was a very clear choice from the beginning. Obviously, Uncle Henry here obviously has a great impact on influence on my decision. But nonetheless, like I think that besides the great name or the also looked at the breadth of just in general how Cornell will provide me. Look at it how well-rounded we are. We have the hotel school, we have even the vet school, and I think that dynamic will give me a better perspective on other things, and that made a clear decision for my part.
So I actually started I studied for 2 years, and then I wanted to do this program in financial engineering. And there are actually very few universities that actually offer financial engineering as an undergrad emphasis or as a major. So Cornell was actually the top choice for me because it was the program which provided the most breadth as well as depth in terms of all the course selection, and also in terms of their master's in financial engineering. It was also a very strong curriculum and very unique because it's also a 3-semester curriculum as opposed to something that's 2 semesters, which gives me the best of both worlds in terms of academic and also career exposure.
And Elliot?
When I got into Cornell and it was the best engineering school I went to, and I had really no idea that I wanted to end up in that. Back then we called it industrial engineering primarily as opposed to OR. I mean, I graduated in '77 and the OR name had only just come on 11 years earlier kind of year. So I didn't know exactly, because the engineering school allows for the initial first years to get a taste of all the different engineering activities. I took electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. We had to do drafting. It gave me a sense of which ones I liked and which ones I didn't like, and from there it was pretty easy to realize that I was a data person and a manufacturing person, and that's where I ended up.
And Amy?
I was going to say exactly the same thing. I knew I wanted to do engineering, but I wasn't sure what kind, and really until I got to Cornell, I didn't even know about operations research until I got to Cornell, even though that's what my dad studied. But when I got here, it was obvious that was the best fit for me. I remember when I got into Cornell and my dad sat me down and he said, I don't want you to go to Cornell just because I went there, but I also don't want you to not go to Cornell just because I went there. But I knew it was where I wanted to go, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to come to Cornell as an undeclared engineering student and then, discover that OR was the right major for me.
Great. Les.
So, David, I just wanted to follow up on something that Bill said, first of all, and then has been echoed many times. It's still the case that many students that come here as freshmen don't know anything at all about operations research. For years and years, it was 2% of the students that came into college that indicated some sort of interest in OR when they came into college. Now, 2% out of a class of 750 students is not that many, 15 students. I at least would like to add that this past year, or this current academic year, I've been in charge of a so-called 50 class of freshman students. I've got 22 students that are freshmen that I advise, all interested in OR from day one. So things are better. But I think, we're hearing comments from you guys that are students right now that say that you didn't know anything at all about OR until you got here. And I think that's still very much the case.
Well, I'm happy and proud to say I was one of the very first advisors of Jack Muckstadt. And he and I have a long and candid relationship. He asked a question which I hope you can answer. A couple of years ago we were chatting and he was talking about how expensive this place is. And he said, what are we doing to create value added for this student here versus going someplace else? So you can correct me if I didn't get that right. So I'm asking you, what could this university do to make this education worth the just $56,000? You got to understand, when I started here, my tuition was $32.30, $5 all in, roughly about the same, probably $32 all. And it got all the way up to $3,800. Can you imagine that? So anyway, what's the value? What can this university do to make a better value-added education and make you feel like you got your money's worth?
Well, maybe I want to take the directorial answer rather than the I think one of the things that, what Holly, we pick on Holly a bit, that we do, and we can do it to a limited extent, is to provide this sort of hand-tailored, hands-on experience of real-world problems. And nothing could, if we think about how additional resources could help us grow, very much what would be the nice thing is to really be in a position that we could, on a scale matter, really be able to afford that opportunity to everyone. Because yeah, it's nice to choose the really strong students, to encourage them to do, cutting edge work. But it's still important across the board in terms of shaping the education. And we try to do that to the extent we can. Maybe I guess about 20% of our graduates have some sort of research experience. But in terms of what we could do to improve the value that we get, that's really a differentiator in terms of what you can do at an institution like this, of bringing the sense of where the world is at its frontier and give students the hands-on experience to do that. And providing the resources in order to do that is certainly fundamental to be able to make it permeate through the whole curriculum.
I'll just pick up on that for a moment. So after I finished here, I ended up getting a master's in this program called Engineering Economics. It was at Stanford, kind of a unique program, but similar to OR, I think, in many ways. And then later went back and got an MBA. By just listening to the comments here on the amount of very applicable content people are getting in their undergraduate education, the research being part of it, but these courses, the cross-disciplinary work that's being done, I think is fantastic. I think that is differentiating, and I feel like they have learned in 4 years what I was doing at least a good part of my graduate work, and it's amazing to me to see that.
Great. So I think I want to close it up because of technology. We're running a little behind, and we don't want to slip too much further. But I want to thank all the panelists, especially Amy and Elliot, who's suffered with the technology woes and got up early on their Saturday mornings to beam in. And I want to just thank them all. Thank you very much.